Officer Adam Walker, a Riverton police officer, was finishing his patrol on a freezing winter night when a tiny German Shepherd puppy appeared in the snow, barking and tugging at his pant leg. Thinking it was lost, Adam followed until two more puppies emerged, leading him toward an old abandoned cabin at the edge of town. Inside, the cold air bit like knives, and from the shadows came a faint whimper. When Adam raised his flashlight, what he saw made his heart stop. A wounded mother dog, trapped beneath fallen beams, her pups crying beside her. What happened next would change his life forever. Please support us by subscribing to the channel. The town of Riverton, Colorado, lay buried beneath a suffocating blanket of snow. Winter had tightened its grip for weeks now, freezing the river that split the town in two and turning every roof into a silent mound of ice. Streetlights flickered through gusts of white, their glow weak against the storm that had rolled in from the north. It was close to midnight, and the roads were empty, except for the steady crunch of boots against snow. Officer Adam Walker pulled his collar higher, his breath forming small clouds that vanished into the swirling wind. He was in his mid-30s, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of posture that came from years of quiet discipline. His face carried the marks of long winters and longer nights, cheekbones sharp under a few days' stubble, and deep-set hazel eyes that held more weariness than he liked to admit. Before joining the Riverton Police Department, Adam had served in the Marines. The war had left him with a limp in his left leg and a silence in his soul that no city noise could fill. The night was supposed to be routine. Check the south perimeter, log off duty, and maybe warm up with black coffee at Rosie's Diner before heading home. But as he rounded the corner of Maple Avenue, he caught movement near the storm drain, a flicker of brown against the white. At first, he thought it was debris tossed by the wind. Then it barked. A tiny German Shepherd puppy, no more than 6 weeks old, staggered through the snowdrift toward him. Its fur was soaked and clumped, black and tan like wet autumn leaves, and its ears drooped unevenly. The little creature's ribs showed faintly through its thin coat, but its eyes, wide, amber, and glistening, held a strange determination. It stopped at Adam's boots and gave a small, pleading whimper. "Hey there, little guy," Adam murmured, crouching down. His gloved hand hovered mid-air, cautious. The pup didn't shy away. Instead, it let out a sharp yip and turned back toward the narrow alley, taking a few steps before looking over its shoulder, tail twitching impatiently. Adam frowned. "You want me to follow you?" Another bark, urgent this time, echoing against the icy walls. Adam sighed, half amused, half uneasy. "All right, lead the way." He followed, his flashlight beam slicing through the snowfall. The alley was half buried, lined with boarded-up shops whose signs had long faded beneath frost. Riverton's outskirts were full of such places, relics from better decades when the sawmill still ran and the trains still stopped here. Now only the wind kept company with the ghosts of those who'd left. The puppy trotted ahead with surprising speed, paws kicking up little sprays of powder. Adam kept close, boots crunching, the beam of his light bouncing between snowbanks. He should have called animal control, he knew that. But something about the creature's persistence, its purposeful motion, felt different. A few blocks later, the alley widened into a narrow lane leading out of town. There, at the very edge of Riverton, stood a row of abandoned log cabins, remnants of an old rental retreat. Their windows were broken, their roofs heavy with snow, chimneys blackened by time. Adam slowed, adjusting the strap of his flashlight. Where are you taking me, huh? The pup barked again, bounding toward the largest cabin. The porch creaked under the wind's push, its door hanging slightly ajar. And then, movement. Two more puppies appeared from beneath the porch, both smaller than the first. One was light tan, the other darker with a white streak on its chest. They stumbled through the snow, yipping in chorus, their little bodies trembling, but their eyes fixed on him. "Well, you've got siblings," Adam muttered, heart tightening. "And none of you belong out here." The three gathered at the steps, tails wagging frantically, circling his legs as if urging him forward. He looked at the cabin again. No lights, no smoke. Only the sound of the wind pressing against the broken shutters. He hesitated. Then came a sound that froze him in place. A low, muffled whimper, the sound of pain. It came from somewhere inside the cabin, faint but unmistakable. Adam's training kicked in. He rested his hand on his holster, sweeping the flashlight toward the doorway. "Anyone in there?" he called, his voice carried away by the wind. No answer. Only another small cry, softer this time, followed by a scrape of wood. The puppies bolted inside without hesitation, disappearing into the darkness. "Damn it!" Adam muttered, stepping onto the porch. The wood groaned beneath his weight, brittle from years of snow rot. He reached the door, pressed it lightly. It gave way with a tired sigh. The smell hit him first. Damp wood, rust, and something faintly metallic. His flashlight cut through the gloom, catching flakes of snow drifting in from a hole in the roof. Dust motes swirled like ghosts in the pale beam. "Hello?" His voice came out low, cautious. Nothing. He took a step forward. The floor creaked, echoing through the hollow space. His light fell on a small fireplace choked with ashes, a collapsed chair, and scattered paw prints across the dusty floor. The puppies were nowhere in sight. Then, from deeper within the cabin, came the sound again. A faint, trembling whine, followed by a sharp crack of wood shifting. Adam's pulse quickened. He tightened his grip on the flashlight, jaw clenching as he advanced toward the sound. Somewhere in that darkness, something or someone was struggling to breathe. And just as the next gust of wind rattled the shattered windows, he heard it clearly. A deep, pained exhale, the kind that carried exhaustion and fear. He aimed his flashlight at the far corner and saw movement beneath a pile of broken beams. From the shadows came a low, heart-wrenching moan and the splintering groan of wood about to collapse. The beam of Adam's flashlight trembled as he knelt closer to the pile of splintered wood. The sound that had drawn him in, a weak, stuttering breath, grew clearer now, rising and falling in painful rhythm. He brushed aside a few smaller planks, his gloves scraping over ice-coated wood, and froze. Beneath the shattered beam lay a German shepherd mother, her fur once rich sable now clotted with frost and streaks of dried blood. Her side rose only faintly, each inhale shallow and ragged, a raw sound that made the air feel colder. Her eyes fluttered open at the disturbance, dark amber glinting through the dust. For an instant, instinct flared, defense, warning. But then recognition softened her gaze when she saw her pups huddled beside Adam's boots. They whimpered, pawing at her muzzle, their little cries forming a chorus of fear and love. Adam swallowed the lump in his throat. "Easy, girl. I've got you." His voice, usually firm, broke at the edges. He took off one glove and brushed the back of his hand lightly across her ear. The warmth, faint but there, gave him a thread of hope. The wooden beam trapping her was thick, half buried in snow and ice that had seeped through the broken roof. He scanned the room quickly. The structure looked older up close. Walls warped by years of damp, furniture reduced to skeletal frames of rot. In the corner, a collapsed table leaned against the window, blocking what little moonlight filtered through the snowstorm. He turned to the pups, still trembling at his legs. "You three are something else, huh?" he muttered, "leading me all the way out here." He crouched lower, trying to keep his movements calm, deliberate. "Scout, Echo, Piper," he said softly, assigning them names without thinking. The first, the boldest, was Scout, with darker fur and sharper eyes. Echo was the smallest, her coat a soft honey brown, and she clung closest to her mother. Piper, with one white paw, paced anxiously, letting out quick, short barks as if commanding him to hurry. Adam stood, scanning for something to use. Near the collapsed chimney, an old iron fire poker lay half buried under debris. He grabbed it and wedged the tip beneath the edge of the beam. The first attempt barely shifted it. The ice held firm. Gritting his teeth, he repositioned his hands, using the poker as a lever. Every inch upward came with a creak, every groan of wood mirrored by a whine from the trapped dog. Come on," he muttered, sweat forming even in the cold. The muscles in his arms screamed in protest. The beam budged half an inch, then another. He slid one boot underneath to brace it, trying to wedge a broken chair leg beneath as temporary support. The structure groaned ominously above him. The storm outside intensified. Snow drifted in through the gaps in the roof, stinging his face. Wind moaned through the rafters like a living thing. He could hear it shifting the cabin's weight, the timbers creaking in protest. "Stay with me, girl," Adam whispered, his voice barely audible above the howling wind. The mother's ears twitched. Her tail, limp moments ago, flicked once weakly. He pushed harder. The beam lifted another inch, and then the poker slipped. The beam slammed back down with a thud, sending a jolt through the floor. The dogs yelped. Adam cursed under his breath, grabbing his aching wrist. From outside, something hit the cabin wall, a branch torn free by the wind. The sound rattled the loose boards, snow pouring in through new cracks. He didn't have much time. He tried again, this time wedging the poker deeper under the beam. His breathing came in sharp bursts, clouding the air. The muscles in his back ached. Then, slowly, stubbornly, the beam began to rise again, inch by inch. The German shepherd whimpered, eyes squeezing shut. "Almost there," Adam panted. "Hang on." He kicked another plank beneath the lifted edge to hold it in place, then reached forward with his free hand to pull the mother gently by her shoulders. Her fur was slick with melting frost, her ribs too visible beneath the matted coat. As he dragged her free, one of the puppies, Echo, darted forward, licking her mother's face frantically. The other two circled close, tails low but wagging. Adam exhaled shakily, lowering the beam carefully back into place. He glanced around. They were safe for now, but not for long. The cabin was groaning under the pressure of the storm, each gust of wind pushing the walls inward like the breath of some great beast. He needed to get them out. Adam took off his jacket and laid it over the mother's trembling body. "You're going to be okay," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. Her breaths were shallow, labored. Frost had gathered around her whiskers like tiny beads of glass. He pulled out his radio, thumb pressing the transmit button. "Dispatch, this is Officer Walker, Unit 4. I've got an injured animal, adult female dog, out at the old Birchwood cabins near Riverton Ridge. I need assistance and animal rescue." Static hissed in reply, broken and faint. "Repeat, dispatch. Do you copy?" More static. The storm had jammed the signal. "Damn it!" He shoved the radio back onto his belt and turned toward the door, but froze. A sudden crack split the air, sharp as thunder. He looked up just in time to see the roof sag. Snow poured from the ceiling in a white sheet. The main beam that ran across the cabin shuddered, splitting near the center. Adam lunged toward the doorway, but a deafening crash followed. A section of the roof caved in, blocking the exit completely under a mound of snow and timber. The wind howled through the new opening above, swirling the flakes in chaotic spirals. The puppies barked wildly, huddling close to their mother. Adam shielded them instinctively, heart hammering in his chest. The way out was gone, buried beneath the weight of the storm. "All right," he breathed, steadying himself, eyes darting to the shaking walls. "Looks like we're staying a little longer." Outside, the blizzard roared louder, drowning out the world. Inside, Adam crouched beside the wounded mother and her trembling pups, the flashlight beam flickering weakly against the cracked wood. And as the storm raged above, the cabin groaned once more, its only door sealed tight beneath the snow. The storm outside roared like a living beast, clawing at the cabin walls as if it wanted to get in. Inside, the air was a sharp blade of cold, slicing through Adam's breath. His flashlight beam trembled in the dark, flickering over the wooden planks and the pale shape of the German shepherd mother lying weakly beside the fire pit. She was barely conscious, her breaths shallow, her eyes half open yet full of stubborn light. Adam had named her Luna because even through pain, her gaze carried that same dim glow, a fragile moon in a starless sky. He tore pieces of dry furniture from the corner and stacked them into the fireplace. The wood was damp but caught slowly, hissing and sputtering before the first shy flames began to bloom. Their amber glow painted the cabin in trembling warmth. Adam removed his thick police jacket and wrapped it gently around Luna, tucking the sleeves beneath her thin body to stop the shivering. Her fur, dark and matted with half-frozen blood, soaked up the warmth like a sponge desperate for life. The three puppies, Scout, Echo, and Piper, snuggled close against her chest. Scout, the boldest, stood guard at her head, small tail rigid like a soldier on watch. Echo, the quietest, pressed her tiny muzzle into Luna's neck, whimpering softly as if whispering reassurance. Piper couldn't stop pacing, his little paws clicking anxiously on the floor, occasionally darting to Adam's boot to tug his laces in worry. Adam smiled faintly, despite the ache in his chest. "You're good kids," he murmured. He crouched closer, rubbing his palms together before holding them near Luna's muzzle. "She's going to make it," he told them, though his own voice wavered. "We're all getting out of here. That's a promise." His breath fogged in the cold, vanishing before the light could catch it. He pulled out his radio, thumb trembling against the button. "Dispatch, this is Officer Walker," he said into the static. "I'm trapped in the Birchwood cabins with 4 canines, 1 adult female severely injured. Requesting rescue coordinates and medical aid. Repeat, requesting assistance." The radio crackled weakly, the signal flickering like his dying flashlight. He adjusted his position, standing near a broken window where snow blew in through the cracks. "Dispatch, do you copy?" The reply came fragmented, a woman's voice beneath layers of static. "Copy. Walker? Storm interference? Stay put. Rescue delay." Then silence. Adam clenched his jaw. He recognized the voice. Dr. Olivia Hayes, the town's veterinarian, often helped the police with stray rescues. Olivia was in her late 30s, with steady hands and a face marked by both intelligence and quiet kindness. She had dark, shoulder-length hair usually tied back, and gray eyes that never seemed to miss detail. Her calm confidence had earned her respect around Riverton, though few knew that she'd lost her husband 2 years earlier in a car accident during a blizzard. Since then, she'd thrown herself into her work, treating every wounded creature like it carried a piece of her own grief. Adam pressed the radio again. "Olivia, if you can hear me? Luna's losing body heat fast. I've got a small fire going, but the roof's unstable, the door's buried. I'll hold until sunrise." He released the button and sighed, the weight of the silence pressing back. He turned his flashlight downward. Its glow had dimmed to a faint cone, barely cutting through the shadows. The battery warning blinked red. "Of course," he muttered under his breath. He removed the battery, rubbed it between his palms, then jammed it back in. The beam steadied, weak but alive, just enough to reach the opposite wall. He took stock of their situation. The snow piled high against the collapsed doorway, the rafters sagging ominously above. Every now and then, the wind pushed hard enough that the whole structure groaned like a dying animal. He couldn't risk sleeping. He stoked the fire again, adding another plank, then leaned against the wall beside Luna. Her breathing was slower now, but less labored. When Adam touched her head, she blinked once, barely lifting her muzzle. He rubbed her ear gently. "You've done enough, Luna. Rest. I'll take it from here." Outside, the storm shrieked. A faint sound rose above it. A distant howl carried through the wind. Adam froze. That wasn't the storm. It was deeper, throatier, the call of a wild coyote or perhaps wolves. He remembered the dispatcher's warning about hungry strays and predators forced near town by the cold. The puppies stiffened. Scout barked once, a sharp, defiant sound that echoed against the wooden walls. Adam stood slowly, hand resting on his flashlight, scanning the cracks where the boards met the snow-choked ground. Another howl answered, this one closer. "Easy," Adam whispered, crouching again. "They smell the blood." He glanced toward the weak doorframe. The cold wind whistled through it, carrying the scent of the wounded mother into the wilderness. He needed to mask it somehow. He tore a piece of canvas from a collapsed chair and shoved it against the gap beneath the door, using his boots to pack snow over it. The howling faded briefly, replaced by the endless rush of the blizzard. For a moment, he let himself breathe. Then, without warning, the flashlight flickered, once, twice, before its light shrank to a dying pulse. "No, no, not now," he muttered, shaking it violently. The last glow illuminated Luna and her pups huddled together in fragile warmth. And then it went dark. The room sank into shadow so deep it felt alive. The only sound was breathing, theirs and his, blending with the faint hiss of the fire that struggled to stay lit. Adam reached out blindly until his hand found Luna's side, the slow rhythm of her heartbeat grounding him. That was when he heard it. A faint scratching sound from the wall behind him, slow, deliberate, and too heavy to be the wind. Something was moving outside, dragging itself along the cabin's outer boards. The puppies went silent, ears perked. Even the fire seemed to hesitate, its flames shrinking low. Adam's pulse thudded in his ears. He reached for his sidearm, thumb brushing the safety off, eyes straining to see through the dark. The noise came again, closer this time, followed by a low, guttural snarl muffled by wood. He steadied his breathing, whispering under his breath, "Whatever you are, stay out." His voice was swallowed by the storm. Then came one final scrape across the wall, sharp, deliberate, and silence. The flashlight blinked once and died completely. The darkness pressed heavy against the cabin walls. The last ember in the hearth glowed faintly like a dying heart, and every gust outside made the timbers shudder. Adam crouched by the fire, his hands stiff and cracked from cold. The scratches against the outer wall had stopped hours ago, or maybe minutes. Time had dissolved into a blur of frost and fear. But when silence finally came, it felt no safer. It only meant that something, or everything, was waiting. He stood slowly, joints aching, and pushed the heavy wooden cupboard toward the broken door. The legs scraped across the warped floor, grinding against nails and splinters. He jammed it tight under the doorframe, sealing the cracks where the wind slipped through. Then he turned to the fire, feeding it with the last remains of a shattered table leg. The flame flared briefly, revealing the cabin's scars, the split beams, the sagging roof, and Luna lying near the hearth, her body still wrapped in his jacket. The mother dog's chest rose and fell faintly, her breathing steadier now but shallow. Her eyes fluttered open as Adam knelt beside her. "You're still fighting," he whispered, brushing frost from her muzzle. The puppies, Scout, Echo, and Piper, huddled around her like living embers. Their little bodies radiated warmth, their fur glistening with moisture from melted snow. Adam's flashlight had died completely, leaving only the trembling light of the fire. He needed a way out before the cabin gave up its last strength. He scanned the room carefully, eyes adjusting to the glow, until his gaze caught on a section of wall behind the stove, warped wood with a faint seam running along the floor. Curious, he crawled closer and brushed away the soot and dust. Beneath it, a small iron latch glimmered under the soot. He pulled it. The latch lifted with a tired creak, and a narrow trap door shuddered open, releasing a puff of stale, cold air. A coal storage pit. The kind built decades ago when the cabins still had caretakers. It led under the kitchen floor, possibly out to the old supply yard behind the ridge. Adam's pulse quickened. It might be their only chance. He stood and reached for the rope from his utility belt, threading it carefully under Luna's torso. His breath came in short bursts, every movement scraping muscles that had gone numb. "All right, Luna," he murmured, securing the knot across his chest. "We're getting out of here?" Scout was the first to sense the plan. The little pup darted to the trap door, sniffing the edge and wagging its tail in anxious excitement. Piper followed, paws scratching against the frozen wood, while Echo clung close to Luna, unwilling to move until Adam gave the command. The opening was tight, barely wide enough for a man his size. But Adam forced himself to descend first, his boots sinking into the frozen dirt. The air below was thick with dust and the faint stench of old coal. He held Luna against his chest, lowering her carefully while the pups slid down beside him, tiny paws slipping on the icy incline. The tunnel was narrow, only about 4 feet high, and it sloped gently toward a faint light ahead, a shimmer of white. The wind's howl seeped in faintly from above, muted but alive. Adam crouched low, one arm cradling Luna, the other guiding himself through the confined passage. Every scrape of his boots echoed like thunder. "Almost there," he whispered, mostly to himself. The sound of his voice steadied him, even as the tunnel groaned under shifting snow. Scout led the way, stopping every few feet to glance back, his little ears twitching as if counting their breaths. Piper stumbled once, landing on his belly with a surprised yelp before clambering up again. Echo stayed pressed to Luna's flank, tail wagging nervously. The beam of pale light grew larger. It wasn't moonlight. It flickered rhythmically, casting long shadows against the tunnel walls. Rescue lights. For the first time in hours, Adam's chest filled with hope so sudden it almost hurt. "We're close, Luna. You hear that? They found us." He crawled faster, ignoring the pain in his knees. The tunnel ended beneath a wooden hatch half buried in snow. He braced his shoulder against it and pushed. At first it didn't budge. Ice had sealed it from above. He tried again, muscles trembling. "Come on," he growled through gritted teeth. "Not now." With one final shove, the hatch cracked open, flooding the tunnel with freezing air. Snowflakes swirled down like shards of glass. He squinted upward, his eyes catching the distant red and white blink of an emergency beacon through the storm. "Rescue," he whispered, a smile tugging at his lips. The sound felt foreign after so long. He climbed out, dragging Luna with him, her body limp but breathing. The cold hit him like a hammer, but he didn't care. The world was white and endless, the cabin now just a faint shadow behind him. He adjusted Luna across his shoulders, using the rope like a sling, and began trudging across the buried yard. Each step was agony. The snow reached his knees, heavy and unyielding. The three puppies flanked him, yipping encouragement, their little forms half disappearing in the drifts. The beacon pulsed ahead, cutting through the curtain of snow like a heartbeat. Every few steps, Adam glanced at it, the promise of safety driving him forward. But the wind shifted again, stronger than before. The snow thickened, turning the world into a white wall. He couldn't see the light anymore. "Scout! Piper! Echo!" he shouted over the wind. Their small shapes still moved ahead, but slower now, struggling. He tried to quicken his pace, but his boots slipped on hidden ice. He went down hard, his knee slamming into the frozen ground. Luna slipped from his shoulders, rolling onto the snow with a soft thud. Adam reached for her, pain flashing through his leg. "Stay with me, Luna," he gasped, crawling toward her. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw the light again, the beacon flashing red through the storm. But then, just as quickly, it vanished. The wind howled, and the world went black under the wave of snow that came down from the ridge. Adam's final step vanished beneath the ice, the ground giving way with a crack. Luna slid from his grasp as the last glimmer of rescue light flickered out, swallowed whole by the storm. The storm broke just before dawn. The wind, once howling like a beast, sank to a whisper. Snow still fell, but gently now, like ash drifting from an extinguished fire. Beneath that silence, a faint scratching broke through, the sound of Scout, his little paws digging feverishly at the snowbank that had buried them. His tan fur was rimed with frost, his tail trembling with effort. Beside him, Piper barked in short bursts, his white paw swiping at the drifts, while Echo, the smallest, pressed her nose into the ice and whined softly. Underneath, Adam Walker stirred. His body ached, cold biting deep into his bones, but the muffled sound of the pups cut through the haze. He blinked, snowflakes melting on his lashes, and realized he was half buried in a shallow ravine. His uniform was soaked, his breath shallow, but he was alive. He pushed himself up, ignoring the pain that flared through his knee. "Luna," he croaked, turning toward the snowbank where her body had fallen. For a heartbeat, panic clawed at him. Then he saw a tuft of sable fur peeking from beneath the ice. He lunged forward, clawing with his bare hands until his fingers broke through. The pups joined him, their small paws scrabbling desperately. Together, man and dogs unearthed Luna, her body limp, muzzle dusted white. Adam brushed the frost from her face, pressing 2 fingers gently to her throat. For a moment, nothing. Then a faint flutter beneath the skin. A heartbeat. Weak, but there. "She's alive," Adam whispered, voice cracking. He gathered her into his arms, her weight heavier now that every muscle in his body screamed from exhaustion. "You held on, girl. You really did." The pups yipped, circling his legs, their tiny voices breaking the morning stillness. Above them, the clouds began to thin, streaks of pale gold cutting through gray. The first light of dawn glinted off the snow, and from far in the distance came a new sound, the rhythmic thump of helicopter blades, faint at first, then growing. Adam lifted his head, disbelief spreading across his face. He reached for his radio, its casing half cracked from the fall, and pressed the button. "This is Officer Walker," he rasped. "I'm at the Birchwood clearing. Injured animal, adult female dog, 3 pups. We're alive. Repeat, we're alive." Static answered him at first, then a voice. "Copy that, Officer Walker. Hold position, helicopter inbound from Riverton." Relief washed through him, so strong it made his vision blur. But before the helicopter arrived, another sound cut through the valley, the crunch of tires against snow. A white SUV came barreling through the drifted road, its Red Cross emblem flashing faintly in the dim light. Behind the wheel was Dr. Olivia Hayes. She was bundled in a thick parka, her dark hair pulled back beneath a wool hat. Her face was pale from the cold, but her gray eyes burned with purpose. She'd followed the last ping from Adam's emergency GPS through the night, refusing to wait for daylight. When she saw him, half kneeling, clutching the wounded shepherd in his arms, she didn't hesitate. "Adam!" she shouted, leaping from the vehicle, boots crunching through the frost. "You stubborn fool, you actually made it!" Her voice trembled, not with anger, but relief. She dropped beside him, her hands already pulling a thermal blanket from her kit. "She's fading," Adam said hoarsely. "Her pulse is weak." Olivia's movements were swift, confident. She'd been doing this her whole life, saving creatures caught between life and death. She wrapped Luna in the heated blanket, adjusting the portable oxygen mask she'd carried out from the truck. "Easy, girl," she murmured. "You're safe now. We've got you." The helicopter's rotor wash whipped the snow into whirlwinds as it descended. Rescue officers in thick winter gear rushed forward, their faces hidden behind goggles. Together, they lifted Luna onto a heated stretcher, sliding her gently inside the waiting vehicle. The puppies scrambled up after her, refusing to be separated. Their tails wagged wildly, as if urging her to breathe. As the doors closed, the valley filled with the sound of engines, voices, and the sharp rhythm of life returning. Adam stood back, exhaustion making his knees buckle. Olivia caught his arm, steadying him. "You did everything right," she said softly. "You kept her alive." He gave a faint smile. "They led me here," he said, nodding at the 3 pups who now watched from the stretcher, their amber eyes bright. "I just followed." Olivia's gaze softened, and she squeezed his shoulder. "Then maybe that's what heroes do. Follow where they're needed." Hours later, the storm was a memory. The rescue convoy reached Riverton Veterinary Clinic, a modest brick building nestled beside the frozen river. Inside, the rooms buzzed with quiet urgency. Machines hummed, heaters hissed, and the air smelled of antiseptic and hope. Luna lay on a padded table, her side rising and falling under the steady rhythm of the ventilator. The pups curled against her belly, tiny forms soaking up her warmth. Adam sat in a chair beside them, hands clasped loosely in front of him. His face, still rough with unshaven stubble, was softer now. The weight of the night had lifted, replaced by something gentler. Peace, maybe, or gratitude. When Luna's eyes finally opened, he almost didn't believe it. She blinked once, then twice, before turning her head weakly toward the sound of his voice. Her tail brushed the blanket in a faint wag. The puppies squealed with joy, piling over each other to reach her. Adam laughed, a broken, tired laugh that turned into something freer. Days later, the adoption papers lay signed on Olivia's desk. The name Adam Walker filled the owner's box, beside the line listing 4 new family members: Luna, Scout, Echo, Piper. Olivia handed him the folder with a knowing smile. "They already chose you, Adam. This just makes it official." That evening, Riverton was quiet again. The snow had stopped, and the sunset washed the town in rose and gold. On the porch of his small house, Adam sat with Luna at his side, her head resting on his knee. The puppies tumbled in the yard, chasing each other through the soft drifts. He reached down, running a hand through Luna's fur, now clean and warm beneath the porch light. "We made it," he whispered. She looked up, her golden eyes reflecting the firelight within the windows, and pressed her muzzle against his hand. The storm had taken the night, but in its wake, it had left him something far greater: a family. And in the stillness of that Riverton evening, the snow glimmered like silver dust, carrying with it a story of loyalty, love, and a promise kept beneath the white wind. Sometimes, miracles don't arrive with thunder or shining lights. They come quietly, wrapped in fur, wagging a tail, or looking at us with eyes that simply refuse to give up. In that freezing night in Riverton, when hope seemed buried beneath the snow, something greater was at work, something only God himself could weave. The love between a man and a wounded mother dog became more than survival. It became a reminder that faith, loyalty, and compassion can turn even the darkest storm into a dawn of grace. Perhaps that's what God does best. He sends us signs not in grandeur, but in the small and trembling miracles around us. A rescued life, a heartbeat that keeps fighting, a moment that pulls us back from despair. When we open our hearts, we find that His light never left. It was just waiting beneath the snow. So tonight, if this story touched your heart, take a moment to believe again in the quiet miracles that surround you every day. Acts of love, courage, and faith that carry His presence into our world. May God bless you, protect your loved ones, and keep your home warm with kindness and hope. If you believe that love still saves, share this story. Leave a comment to tell us what moved you most, and subscribe to our channel for more tales of faith, loyalty, and second chances. Because sometimes, the smallest miracle is all it takes to change everything.